G'day, welcome to part 5 of the Starlet and XL250 restorations. Excuse the way I'm dressed, I'm in my garage kit and I've been painting. Let's talk about what Dave's done on that Starlet. He's put the old engine in, or at least the engine out of the red car that we pranged, that we knew the service history on, that we spoke about in the last video. Now that's got a new timing belt, idlers on it, go away, and seals, cam seals and all that sort of stuff, crank seal. Also put in a new drive shaft and used one of the other drive shafts from that red car as well. My gosh, he's done everything. He pulled the head off because we thought we saw corrosion. There was nothing wrong with the block, there was nothing wrong with the head. Everything was absolutely spotless, but there was a bit of powdery stuff around the edge, so I figured take it off and have a look and put new bolts, what do you call them, head bolts on. Changed the water pump, did all sorts of stuff. The flasher cam, which means pulling the instrument cluster out, you name it, he's done it. Even stuck on some new wheel covers, some little cheap ones. So the car looks mint, it looks really, really good. In fact, I don't know if I'm going to bother painting the guard. I might just leave it the way it is. So I think it's presentable the way it is because he's straightened it out and put an indicator in as well. So that's his end of the bargain. In fact, I think I've just done the outro. I think I mentioned the MG. I'm not sure about that. He's got the MG on the hoist too. That's got a horrendous rear main oil leak. And I always wanted to paint the engine, which meant taking the engine out to do it properly. He's got the engine half out. So we have to crack on with his bikes. Now, I've got everything in bits now. What we'll do in this chapter is we'll get the rest of the other bike apart and we'll have a look at the engine as well, which was a good runner. Dave has ridden it through all 5 gears. He knows everything's peachy, but again, even good running engines can have 1 or 2 gremlins, so we'll look at that as well. So, and look, at the end of the day, I'm really wrapped with how it's going. This is the last video of the disassembly stuff. Then we start getting a few bits and pieces in and getting some reconditioning work done, and we can go full steam ahead with it then. So hope you enjoy. I wasn't excited until I realised it was a 6.
Matches your jacket. Almost.
It's not bad. How you going?
Good, thanks.
You going well?
Yes. Yeah,
Mike?
Hi, viewers.
Dave got the Starlet going. What are you doing to this? This is one of yours, is it?
Just the gauge, fuel gauge, temp gauge, get the horn going, just a couple of things.
Oh, yeah.
Roadworthy.
I've got to get one of those horns off you too. Good pardon?
Forward ship.
I used to work there.
Language, Michael.
He said ship, as in big boat. I had to cut half of the stuff out that I did before because the radio was going.
Chrome bumper.
Yeah, it's a classic. Even with the plastic ends. I like this because it's a stick as well. Yeah, you know when we were doing that before,
Yeah.
I cut half of it out and I thought it looked mean, but there was music playing. This is so cool. What do you... I'd drive
The
one of
guy
them
couldn't
roads.
pass it up. He had a mate go looking for an XD and this was there apparently. So he thought, well, I'm going to buy it.
He watches all your videos.
Does he?
How much you pay for something like that?
I don't know what...
Oh, look, it's a 6 litre.
It's a 6 litre, yeah.
I could actually I'll ring him and I'll get him to come up and... So,
I want to look at this. You got it going, Dave.
Yep.
Thank you
The
so
idle
much.
was up the spout a bit, so I had to take the idle.
The ACM light, oh, it's all warm, yeah.
Just the idle motor in here. They have
Oh.
a magnet.
Yeah.
And then there's a little shaft that goes in that was all gummed up, so I pulled that off and just freed all that up, cleaned the throttle body because that was sticking on it. But
It felt
started
gummy?
It started straight away.
Did it?
Yeah.
With its original injectors and everything?
Yeah. Go over beautifully.
And it's got a clutch pedal and everything?
Yeah, got the gears, I just drove
Really?
it on the hoist and that. Yeah.
So it's all good.
All good.
Dave, you're a magician. Ah, there it is. I'm particularly excited about this one.
A bit of a wash, Pete. I'm still going to get to that. I'll get my toothbrush and I'll give it all a little wash with the toothbrush.
I'm stoked. Thanks so much. I'll give it a spurt. Oh, it runs like a ball one, doesn't it?
It's
got all-
off a bit now, so.
That's so quiet, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's about fine.
Quieter than the other one was, though.
No engine light on or anything. So
No.
Made it up to
Did they,
sensor or something.
Did you have to pee or anything?
I have, yeah.
So did you see what I did to your bike? I've got to talk to you about that too. See what you want to do. Do you want me to get the second one going?
Nah, I don't think so.
Well, you might get sort of an XR type thing out of it.
Oh, no, I wouldn't bother. You can have all the scraps if you want to do it. Got a bit of dirt coming through, so
That'll be from the heater core,
yeah,
probably.
they probably need a bit of a run and then flush it and that after it's run for a while.
That'll be the core, probably. I'll probably just scrap it lying around.
I think even just dryness in the motor and that.
Yeah.
Sitting around without
Oh,
water
yeah.
in.
You're a legend.
One of those Richmond stickers on the car.
Do you want a Richmond sticker left on there, Dan?
Yeah, just for one of the small ones. I know you'd take them off, but...
She was a real Tiger supporter. Look, there's even like little...
Yeah. Wait. She's up your bum again.
Up my bum again. I was going to say you can do that, but maybe not.
It'll make us look like drunks even.
No, that's awesome.
I'm going to have a beer at the end of the day.
And the shaft fitted. Yeah. Look. Just welding this up. I've just got a little hole there. I'll fill that in and we should be good. Well, it isn't perfect, but I've blocked that up. Once that's powder coated, it's just a little lump there. I didn't want to cut it out and weld a disc in because it's too close to that factory weld there on the head stem, so I didn't want to touch that. That's the reason I've done it like that. Right, we have Dave's good motor out, and we're going to pull that apart in a moment to have a look and see what the overall condition is with that one. Of course, here is the empty bike. I've got to take the wheels off and give them to him, and I've got to source some stainless spokes as well. So we'll get rid of those gaiters because they're just yards too long, and those head clamps there, they're really wrong. You can see they overhang and all that sort of stuff. Shocks look alright, but they've been painted. The springs been brush painted or something. I'll take them off and have a better look, and I might get them powder coated or whatever. We'll suss that out in a moment. But in the meantime, we have a real mess on our hands, but the first thing I'm going to do is have some tea. Followed by licorice bullets. I reckon these things keep you regular. I don't think I need to keep regular, but anyway. Right. Got this, I got a mouthful, I can't talk. I got this rear guard with wiring and crap all over it. Guard's in pretty good nick. Wiring's had it though, so we'll redo all that. Of this, we'll probably only keep the boot, we'll clean it up and keep it. Has this really funky light on it. Again, it's all been cut. That was done a long time ago. So I need to rewire this. Keep this lens because it's really funky. It has got a, oh no, has it got one? A little craze mark there, but that's alright. Won't let moisture in. The surround though, I want it to get plated, but I'm a bit worried about the thickness of it. I'll pop that up. Have a bit of a look in here. And as usual, we get these screws plated. Once this rubber's all sort of fixed up, it'll look good. I've not seen one of these lights. Most of the time they're the larger ones. That lens is lovely, we'll keep that. It's this surround. It's awfully thin. Worst comes to worst, if we plate that, it'll be all flat because it's not a smooth surface. So got to figure out what I'm going to do with that. It might have to be painted, I'm not sure. Where's the stop tail? And this boot should all unpick so that we can fix it all up and make it look good again. That's pretty straightforward. That's really straightforward. I can reuse that, solder on some new bits and pieces onto there. And of course, that bit there, I think the best thing to do with this is to plate this too. Well, they're just screwed in. We can plate that. We'll do it in gold. Straight off the bat, we're better off. We've got valve clearances there. This plug is wobbly. Dave thought it might need a thread insert putting in the head. So I want to take this off, have a good look at it. And that's a brand new plug, which looks different to the one that came out of the other engine. I wonder. Okay, we'll deal with that in a minute. We want to get this valve thing off, cam box off, so I'm just going to move a few things around. These are great to work on because they're so light and just so simple. We want to take these bits off here. Yeah, where are we? That's for the decompressor. We push on the Kickstarter and that will just release a little bit of compression from the chamber by having it's got a heel on it, which opens one of the exhaust valves ever so slightly. Which way does this go? That goes that way. So if I do that, it should come into where, yeah, that's it there. And so it's so much better with this one by the look of it because all the factory fasteners look to be intact. I just want to neaten it up a bit, and I'm expecting it to be pretty good inside. So I'm not going to go into too much detail of showcasing every bit that I take, pardon me, off this, because I did it on the other one. I'll just undo fasteners and then sort of show it, if you know what I mean. Sometimes I'll film certain bits and pieces just so that I remember, because I'll watch the bits of the video back. This one seems really clean. Probably hasn't long been rebuilt. You can't tell. There's an old saying when you paint part of your house, it's like, or paint your house, it says, nothing like a coat of paint. And it's the same with this. It looks recoat, but quite often people do rattle can overhauls, and they're not overhauled at all, they're just tarted up. Put this on high speed. Off you get. Straight off the bat, this is mad. That is great. That's tight as a drum. Oh, this does look good. And there's another thing which I've noticed as well. Those adjusters here have packs of adjustment left on them. Look at that. So these valves are really, really healthy. They're not sunk back in the head. That is a great sign. So straight off the bat, this is a lot better off than the other. The other thing I've noticed, I'm just going to move the camera so you can probably see a little better. If we get my little torch. This looks great. Clean as a whistle. I wonder if this has been reconditioned. I'm taking it off really just to look at that stud down there. There's a broken stud. That chain is really tight, which is cool. That's excellent. Lubricant's clean. This looks like a cracker. Now I can see what he's talking about. The other thing is if you look at the camshaft, this is the old one, and it's the hardening's all affected on it. I mean, it's still the right shape, I guess. It's not rounded off, but it's been shimmed. Obviously, it's chewed out. This one hasn't. It's got its original journal there, which is really, really good, and they're in great condition. So this engine looks like a real cracker so far. We'll dig a bit harder. We'll dig a bit lower and see what we can find. The other thing I've noticed is that there's a little pedestal here, which is obviously where this pin sits, and that must be what retains the decompressor. So that's the part that's missing off the other, which is really, really cool to know. So I'm going to put that back in. That can fall right in for all I care. That's cool. Cam bearings are beautiful on that. This timing chain feels tight to the point where I reckon it's been replaced. I really don't think there's any point in replacing parts that don't need to be replaced, or unwinding it the wrong way, which is what I've just done, because it is absolutely flawless in terms of its it's just bloody perfect. I'm going to wrap this up in a rag. Just let that drop down. So far, so good. Tied it all. Yeah, they're a bit loose. But they were torqued up terribly well. So let's take this up. This is a bit everyone wants to see when they pull an engine apart. What the cylinder bores are like. This is coming up real easy. Come on, old thing, up you come. This is worse. That's your guide, and that's really chewed out down the bottom, so we'll pop a new one of those in. Well, it's been apart at some point. I don't think it's been reconditioned. I think it's just been looked after quite well and given a paint job. The bores haven't been honed anytime recently. There is a mark here, down there. You can't feel it with your finger, so I can hone that out. That's cool. Looks to be in beautiful nick. Even the inside of the engine down there, it's not all brown. So it's not been getting all that hot with old oil, if you know what I mean. It's been sort of really, really well looked after by the look of it. I mean, I can't say for sure, but it's pretty impressive in terms of its condition. Although it looks like it's have they been hitting there? Can we see? It's got shiny marks where the intake valves are. I wonder if that's been hitting. See those marks where there's no carbon? Rings are all free. Let's have a look at the head. Yes, look at that. They have been hitting. Had plenty of compression. They've just touched though. I wonder why. Pistons hitting valves is never a great thing. And it looks like it's been replaced. I'm going to just take the cover off so I can rotate the engine a bit better without using a Kickstarter. And I've seen this before. Another YouTube bloke, Musty1, did an XL250 and he changed the cylinder and piston assembly for just a sort of a cheap aftermarket one. And he had problems with it hitting the valves. It was making a hell of a racket. And so he used 2 head gaskets to alleviate the problem. At least I think he did. Now I don't want to do that. But I'm going to take the piston out, and if it's not a genuine one, it might be worth getting a genuine Honda one. Because the compression heights can be different with non-genuine kit. In that, the top of the crown, in its relationship to where the wrist pin is, can be minusculely different. And because there's such a high performance engine, a 4-valve thing, you know, it's not beyond the realm of possibility. That could be sitting a little bit too high and clouding things. And if that's the case, it might call for a genuine new old stock piston or something to that effect. I don't think they're too dear. I think they're sort of $80 or so, but we'll see. God, the rain's heavy, isn't it? Either way, it's really clean inside. Now, what I'm expecting... That's loose. Jesus, look at this. I might have to go over this guy's work, whoever did this, because some of the things I'm finding, the cylinder head was loose. Look at this chain tensioner. Now, that comes out, and that's going to spell chaos, because it's just going to completely chew everything out. So, that isn't good. And also, that is in the wrong way. This thing is supposed to go in from the back. Having said that, that's in pretty good nick. But that is, from what I saw on the other, but it just gives it a shoulder either side. One on the bolt and one on the spacer. That would go in like that. So I think that was incorrectly fitted, but I'll download a manual, have a look at a manual or something. Try and figure out what the hell's going on with this piston, because I don't like what I'm seeing with it. This Take it off and have a bit of a sticky. It looks new though, doesn't it? Looks really new. Let's see if we can see any Honda markings on it. Let's see if I can see it on foot first. That was more ice than class. It might be the right one, but that's a new piston. But can you see what I'm talking about here? I just think that's ugly. So I need to figure this out. I need to find out exactly what sort of piston that is. But it's been replaced. It's definitely been replaced. Oops, I'm just going to pop that circlet back so I don't lose it. Yes, I need to do some detective work on that, but it's definitely been replaced. It's definitely had a new piston put in, and I reckon the compression height is wrong. Must have been a racket, you would think. Let's check it out with the other piston. As far as the rest of this is concerned, it looks really, really good. I'll take the clutch plates out, we'll check the thickness of those. Give it a shake around, make sure there's nothing loose inside. But the thing looks like it's been apart. It's really, really clean. Like a heck of a lot cleaner than the other one. If we look, hang on, down in the crankcase, it's like brand new. It really is impressive, the condition of it. The other thing is, of course, if the piston checks out to be fine, it might have had a high lift cam put in. So we'll just check the base circle and the lobe and work out the lift and compel. Try and find some information on what the original camshaft profiles were. I know the XRs had a higher lift cam than the XLs, or at least they had a bit more duration, but I need to figure this out. We need to find out what's going on. So if I get this new camshaft and measure the lobe lift, 3635, and subtract the base circle, 29.8. We've got a lift of 6.55 millimeters. I think it's the same on the other one. I just looked at that before. This one, on the other hand, 3622. So it's a little bit smaller. 3622 minus the base circle, which is going to be the same. That's coming up at 31.5. 6.07. So there's what, 0.4 something millimeters difference, and you could attribute that to wear on the cam. So the problem we've got is valves are hitting. The intake valves are hitting now. A couple of things that can be. We could have a nice big hot camshaft out of another type of bike or whatever. I don't think that's the case. I think this is in impeccable condition, and that's not in very good condition. I think that's just down to wear, the discrepancy in lift. Now the other thing it can be, as I said before, is non-genuine pistons with a different compression height, as in the top of the crown is higher in relation to where the pin is to what the original one was. These both appear to be identical in terms of markings and all that sort of stuff. This is a new piston. I'll check whether it's genuine or not, but I think that's going to be alright. The rod looks to be genuine, all that looks to be good. So in terms of it hitting, it's either going to be a very thin head gasket, a non-genuine one, which I doubt. It could be a high lift camshaft, or it could be the cylinder head's been machined right down. Now, at full tilt, a car engine, you're looking at around 100,000 valve to piston clearance, allowing for rod stretch. Now these things spin to about 9 grand or something, and there will be a little bit of rod stretch as it's sort of right at the end of its rev range. So everything seems to be good in terms of camshaft measurements and how everything is in the engine. I'm just not sure. I've given us a bit of a clean-up there, and you can still see the scarring when those intake valves have been hitting. Now, about the only thing that's immediately obvious is the fact that it might have been timed incorrectly. But you know, Dave didn't say that it was difficult to start or any of those sorts of things, unless it was running too far advanced. Now, about the only thing that's foreseeable is the fact that it was timed incorrectly. This is the camshaft of the old one. It's got center punch marks there. I would have thought that would have to be straight up, not that. Not really sure. They've also punched the cam and the gear, so they got it on the right way. But I don't really know. I didn't check the timing before I pulled it apart. So that in itself was a fail on my part, but of course I thought it was a good runner, so I didn't need to. So yeah, I guess once we've timed it all, I'm going to have to clearance it, so I'll put the head back on without a gasket, bit of blue tack on the crown here if you like, just see if we can get some clearance happening. Head gaskets on cars are normally around 40 thousandths, which is a millimetre. On these it's probably half that. So I need to suss all this out before we put the gasket on for the final time, just to make sure this sort of thing doesn't happen again. If it's one of those things that we're completely baffled, I mean, the last resort would be fly cutting the piston, which is just taking a few thousandths off this face here. It seems reasonably thick there. But fly cutting a piston on a stock build is, well, you don't do that. But we need to figure that out. Now the other bit of bad news is the cylinder head's cracked between the plug hole and both exhaust valves, which apparently is quite common on these as well. The original head off the old one wasn't. That looked to be alright. Now this camshaft has got a sleeve on the end of it. It's actually been turned down. So yeah, I wonder if it's the same diameter actually. No, it's bigger. So not even this cam will fit in the other head. So we need to figure out what to do. Another thing which is good news, I suppose, or one thing that's good news, is this filter screen is pretty spotless. There's a bit of stuff there, but essentially there's no real gremlin. So we'll clean this out properly. That just sits in a cavity under there. It's a bit mucky underneath, just with sort of, you know, just debris really. It's not, as long as there's no teeth or really concerning bits of muck, that's not a bad thing. So that just sort of slides in there. I'll clean all that out properly later, but I'll just put it there for now to keep it there. Clutch plates we can check, but the thing that worries me most, and the reason I took it out, was this broken stud up here. Is that in frame? No, it's virtually out of frame. I got coffee this morning because I run out of tea bags. So I have to drill that and get an easy out into it. So what we need to do is stuff a rag in here, protect all this in here, and drill this out. That's that broken part of the bolt. There's our oil restrictor. You never ever forget to put this back in. It's a jet essentially for oil pressure. So we need to keep an eye on that. And one of the good things about this, working on them, we can actually rotate the engine and you can sit it on that top and just throw that in there, and it's supported well. Nothing's going to get in contact with anything for when we need to work on the underside of it. So I don't really need to mask up yet because I'm not ready to paint it, but it's going to kill two birds with one stone. If I do this now, it's going to mean I don't need to do it later, even though I haven't cleaned it up yet. So I probably will end up pulling it off, but it just means that it'll keep debris out too. So there's the stud hole there. So I'm just going to run around here and start working on that. Now the problem with this little bloke here hasn't broken level. It's broken on an incline, if you like, and centre punching the middle of it, which you can see now failed at, is really tricky. So I'm just going to have to start really gingerly and work out how to best get that, because I need to get that in the middle to put an easy out in. I think I've got an easy out that's going to fit that. Two things that are a challenge: it's getting it started, but putting it on an angle like that just to get it going on that hill, which I just did it the wrong way. There's that, and there's also trying to use a blunt drill bit and I can't see what I'm doing. we're going in and we're in the middle. So life's good at the moment. That's probably enough. I'm just going to see what size easy out I've got. I think I've got a little one that'll fit that. Well, I've tried to knock a spline in there. To get that out, it won't come. That's the only easy out I've got, which is huge. So you need to see David through the week. I've drilled it down. It does go quite deep. Right, so here we are inside the other side of it. No foreign bits stuck inside here, like washers and gear teeth, which is cool. The only thing I can see, which isn't fantastic, is the balance shaft chain. You can sort of see it through. Whoops. You can see it in there as well. Balance shaft chain's a bit slack. That's a gig that's going to require splitting the case. I know David doesn't want to do that. There's nothing untoward hanging around at the base of the gearbox. It's squeaky. It is very, very clean. So apparently you can run these without the balance shaft. It gives you some advantage, but I imagine also to be a little bit more vibrating, or a few more vibrations. But look, at the end of the day, he's not going to want to do that. This is a budget build. We have to keep this as cheap as we can. Probably not intolerable. I don't think it's intolerable, but yep, that's got a bit of slack, but otherwise it looks pretty good. So I'm not going to take the clutch plates out yet. I've got the timing chain just fallen and it's locked. It's locked up, so I don't want to put that under any duress. I'll wait till it's painted before I do that. That's a 5-minute job. I've got the rest of the case bolts out of the other one to get plated, which I didn't do on the 750 through fear of hydrogen embrittlement and snapping and all this sort of stuff. But on this I think it's going to be alright because I'm getting them heat treated. And that way, once it's painted, we can just swap them over one at a time. That's probably the best way of doing it. And then just sort of put it back together. I've got to order these gaskets. They seem to be cheapest ex-UK. Some of the other bits, I'm just sort of putting the side covers on, just so, and the top's taped up, just so that I can, it's turned, I can, what do you call it, just keep debris from getting in. Right, so it comes to these sorts of parts here now. Obviously we don't plate that because it's plastic and it looks crap. This here, this grommet, that's a friggin' no-no where I'm concerned. I cannot stand painted grommets. It just says I'm an amateur. Seals, now that looks like it's got, oh, they're not cracks, I think they're just casting marks, or at least, oh no, it is cracked in there. We'll put a new set of seals in. Of course there's these ones as well. That's the compression lever that runs off a dog on the Kickstarter on that face there. So I'm going to pop that off, and also the clutch actuation lever here, which has a cam on it which pushes the little push rod jobby in there and activates the clutch. So I'm going to take those out as well. And that's just got a roll pin in it, that's just got a circlip on it. And one of the reasons I'm filming it, it's mighty boring for anyone seeing this, but it will remind me how it all goes. So I'll just pop that out. And of course we do the mandatory bagging and tagging. This is the clutch actuator. It's just got this spring that sort of sits over, and that clips onto the protruded end of that roll pin. And so we get a, what do you call it, a pin punch, which is right where the camera is. I'll just knock that through very gingerly, and that is going to withdraw, and it will divulge. That's actually a fluted pin. That's a special one. Straight, I'm going to pick that up. Oh, come on, get out. Oh, come on, come on, come on. What are you doing? Really? I'm going to get a magnet. Come on. There you go. It's got flutes in it, like serrations to hold it in there, because again, this sort of kit comes out, gets caught up in chains and gears, and it spells disaster. So we bag these two guys here, very important, and that will just withdraw. And that will divulge the 3 seals that need doing. We'll wet and dry it back where it's had a few injuries, and we'll paint it, and then put new seals in. We don't paint seals. Come on you get. That's a good boy. Okay, so we can just tap that on with my hammer, which I'll probably put away. And that's just hanging on the dowels, which is absolutely good for storage. So I think we've sort of come That's why it's on the ground. I think, well, that hurt. I think we've come sort of as far as we can with this engine. Need to order some parts. Need to see what Dave's going to do about the head, cylinder head. Then I can paint it, start putting all the new bolts and hardware in on a clean bit of cardboard, and hone the barrel, put all that back in, and then we'll keep going with it. But for the moment, I'm going to put it away. Kickstarter is another thing. Undo a screw. There's a titanium mechanism there, which has got a ball. It should have a spring behind there. There we go. There's the ball. Put it in there so I don't lose it. And the spring. Now, plating these sorts of bits and pieces. If you can powder coat it, gas. I'm just going to get the zinc plating on it. That way it's going to be nice and resilient. You go to kick it, you're not going to be kicking paint off and stuff like that. So, bearing in mind that this is a dirt bike essentially, and it's going to be quite abrasive what's on your feet, it's going to be best to plate that as well. So I'm going to bag these things by themselves. They can be cleaned up and used again. They're fine. And this is the better of the two. This has actually got really good, there's virtually no clearance there. The other one's sort of floppy like that, so it's no good. And the spline's healthy. So that's a really, really good bit of kit. We can use that for sure. I'm not going to go into too much detail about stripping the rest of this, because I sort of showed it with the other bike in the last video. There's quite a lot of repetition. This nut here looks like it's off a car. That looks like a steel wheel nut off a car. I wonder. So far as the stanchions are concerned, these are the cleaner of the two. You can get replacement ones, but these actually look really, really good. And that's the great thing about having gaiters, they do protect them, even though these ones are completely incorrect. But, you know, that'll just scotch brite off. There's nothing wrong with that. Really, I thought I was going to whack the camera then. But they're great. They look good. They'll clean up beautifully. So it means essentially just putting a seal kit through the shock legs. With the fork legs. I'll clean these up a bit. These are inclined to they corrode and they look a bit pitted. These ones are good. Some of them do. I'll just clean them up, and I might just put a bit of clear over them just to seal them up a bit so they retain a nicer sort of look. Oh, it's Saturday morning and everyone's got their tools out doing garden work. Do you know what this going from there? Separate that a bit. Drop him out and it's hit the floor, which is crap. Lean it over a bit. Come on, back here we come. There we go. Okay. We destroy that gaiter and that is good. We can reuse that. This is real restoration. This is where you're using as much of the original kit as you can and only replacing what you need to. You know, it keeps the bike more original, and you're not just blindly replacing everything with aftermarket. So that's great. That's a good fork. I'll take that out, the drain. I'll have to drain these out just to get that redone because we want it to look nice. And but all things considered, we're going quite well. Check this one out. This one's got a little bit of surface rust just there, but that's nothing. It's well out of the way. Oh, I'll just cut my thing. Another one, beautiful. That's excellent. I don't know why they use this. It's miles too long. It's like a fake elephant's penis. I don't know why you would fit kit that just doesn't fit that well onto the bike. Having said that, it has formed its function, or it has lived up to its job of protecting the stanchions on the fork. So it's, although it's ridiculous, it's done a reasonable job. A really nifty way of holding that. It's got sort of a thing on the swing arm, a square drive on the swing arm that slots in there, and I've got a hunch Dave's going to want to use that instead of using the separate rod that sort of runs down parallel to the swing arm. So I think he's going to want to go with this one. They're not that tight, but just a bit too tight for me by myself. That's tightened up there, which is good. I just want to get that collar out. That just holds the spring in. Now, there's a couple of things with this swing arm I want to talk about. I reckon it's going to be better going with this. I don't know if that's been put on later, this spring tensioner or chain tensioner, but it's pretty cool. It's got, if it's original Honda kit, these are the parts here, this bit here, and also that bit can be quite dear because all your good restorers want them. So that sort of thing can be quite dear if we go looking for it. It might not be, I haven't looked yet. But I'm thinking, it's got one here too, and that's worn. Would look nice if we could get a nice original one. I might just have a look online. Don't know if that's been put on later. I'm going to see Dave. I would be inclined, just looking at this, to use this swing arm instead of the other one. Got to make the measurements to make sure it's the right size. It's exactly the same width as well as length. Sort of centre to centre, if you know what I mean. But I reckon this is going to be the way to go because you also get to use that really nice rear drum. Now the other thing you'll notice about this is it's been painted over dirt. And, you know, the bike did look clean, but we're going to shoot a little bit higher than that for Dave. Come on, gloves had it. Where's my rag? This is pulled apart impeccably. These are those stupid birds. It's actually fitted with like a steel bush. It's got a steel inner. Probably easy to see on that side. There, I'm not sure if you can see it. And the fit is absolutely perfect. This is in immaculate condition and its fit is absolutely lovely. So I'm not going to change that bush. I don't think it needs it. I think changing that would be stepping sideways. So front wheels is a no-brainer. This is in remarkable condition, this one here. Hub looks in good nick. That doesn't even need machining, it's all good. And of course here's the brake setup, it goes in the centre. It's got old linings in which are getting thin, so we'll put new linings in. I'm not using new old stock, I'm not interested in new old stock. Some of the new old stock ones are asbestos. I'm not sure looking at that whether it is or not. The asbestos ones are normally a little bit paler and also more fibrous looking. I mean, they could still be dangerous, you know, you never know. But we'll use a modern friction material and get new ones for that. Of course, we'll get that stuff plated there. So that's all good. I'm not worried about any of that. And I want to talk about the back wheels. So now it's time to talk about the back wheels. These are both 18-inch alloy rims. We're thinking of using this one. In fact, I'm pretty sure we're going to use this one. That's the old one, which has a sort of a motocross knobby on it. This is more an enduro tyre. Whatever the case, it's getting new tyres, so it doesn't matter. Now, oddly enough, you would think this would be the best one to use because it's got a bigger brake. Most of your braking is done at the front. I think around 80% or a little bit more is done at the front. Of course, as you brake, your momentum shifts forward and puts the bias on the front wheel. Now, with the back, I don't think that would be insufficient, but you know what, I've not ridden these bikes, so I wouldn't have a clue. But this is the earlier type, which has, oh, that's fortuitous. That's like asbestos there, that pale fibrous stuff there. I wouldn't mind betting that's what that is. Anyway, these have a sort of a stator rod, for want of a better term, to stop the brake rotating that hangs down underneath the swing arm. This one here, of course, is the smaller one and has this sort of slot, which has that protrusion I was talking about on the swing arm to stop it rotating. So that'll ultimately give a cleaner look. And so I'm thinking this might be the way to go. I need to speak to Dave. If it was mine, I'd do it this way. He might want to go with that. I doubt it, knowing what he's like. Of course, you can see the reason he wants to re-spoke it or what's it called, lace it, is because it's all brush painted on the spokes and it doesn't look particularly good. So I've got to take all that paint off and paint them properly and then get them relaced. So this is the way I think we're going to go, but I will speak to him about it to see what he says. But it's interesting that there's so much difference in 1 year model. This is quite interesting. This is the trashy wheel. Both of them have pretty well spent sprockets, so they're both trash. This one off the good bike, if you like, sort of chewed up in this area here, where this one's nice and straight. A tiny, tiny little bit of marking, which we can sort of file off. But I just wonder, it's got a ring there. I just wonder perhaps whether it might be better using this one if it fits. The hub size does seem to be a bit different though. Then this one should be a better proposition. Whoops. To use. Oh, it looks different. It is. Bugger. Damn. It's different. It is different. So, yeah, it's completely different. Whoops. So, I think the fact that this one's a little bit damaged, I wonder if I can put that in a lathe. I might put that in a lathe and try and straighten that out a bit. We've just got to leave enough of a lip there for the sprocket, which goes on like so. Like that. So I reckon I can machine some of that off. There's a bit to play with. It'll still show up because I'm not going to go as deep as the edge there, because that's not going to give the sprocket the bracing it needs. But I can take a little bit off that with the lathe. So that's a bummer. I was really hoping I can use this now. Really, we probably could use it, but it means we have to use this wheel, which if it's being relaced, it doesn't really matter that much, but then it means using the older type brake with the arm at the bottom and that sort of thing. And I think the advantages with leaving it with the smaller, neater arrangement's probably better, but I'll talk to Dave and see what he wants to do with that. Oh, one more thing. All these odd bits and pieces, there's brass washers, and they're the proper SIRS, or sorry, half round washers that these use on the back here for the sprocket. The ones that came off this were original. All the washers are correct, the nuts are correct, everything. So I'll plate these ones. Might do them in gold to give it a bit of bling, I suppose. But no, that's all interesting. Just notice this is the one I was going to weld up. It's identical to this one. Absolutely identical, except this is in far better condition. It's painted, so it's probably rubbish underneath, but at the end of the day, it's precisely the same shape. So I think we'll put that in the spares bin and remove this one here and just use that. I'll send it off to be blasted and coated. And I think powder coating is going to be the way to go here. I think it's going to be a much better result. I just want to make sure, I mean, even the rear guard's the same shape. And again, as far as David's concerned, I'll just pick the best of the two. It's precisely the same. It's got this little conduit bit here. Oh, that's much better. Yep, happy with that one. So that's it. We've blown apart two bikes. We've got enough stuff here to build up one really, really good one, and enough stuff to build a second one if we spend some money. Now, Dave doesn't want to do that. This is going to be a real budget build, but it should look absolutely mint. Most of what we have to do with this bike is to do with media blasting, powder coating, electroplating in two different colours, gold and silver. As for the rest of it, in the next chapter we'll be accumulating one or two spare parts or new parts, and we'll get our blasting and everything done, so I can sort of show you all that stuff then. And the other thing is, he started working on the MG, which is nuts. I was dreading that. And of course we're taking the motor out to do a few bits and pieces to that too. So until then, hope you've enjoyed this chapter. Drive safely, enjoy your classic, and I'll see you later.